They say a woman should honor her husband's mother. But Laura didn't just disrespect hers, she broke her heart. And when the truth everyone ignored finally came out, the entire neighborhood fell on their knees in shame. This is the story that will make you cry from the beginning to the end. Laura was a beautiful young woman, always perfectly dressed, always smiling in public. Her wedding to Daniel was the kind that made neighbors gossip for weeks. White roses, golden chandeliers, fireworks in the sky. They looked like the perfect couple. Daniel's mother, Mrs. Eleanor Hale, was an old woman in her late 70s, gentle, soft-spoken, always walking with a small, shaky step, holding a wooden cane. She had spent her whole life working as a teacher, helping children read, feeding the poor, raising her only son with love. When Daniel married Laura, he begged his mother to come and live with them, so she wouldn't be alone. Laura smiled and said, "Of course, she's welcome." But the day Mrs. Hale moved in, Laura's true colors began to show. At first, it was small things. Laura would cook for Daniel and herself, but leave nothing for the old woman. She would slam doors when Mrs. Hale was sleeping. She would whisper insults loud enough for the old woman to hear. Old people are such a burden. Do you see how slow she walks? I didn't marry a man with baggage. Daniel never saw any of this. In front of him, Laura acted like the sweetest angel. But when he left for work, the real nightmare began. One rainy afternoon, Mrs. Hale tried to sweep the floor. Her knees were weak, her back was in pain, but she wanted to be helpful. Laura stared at her coldly. "Don't touch anything. You'll make the house smell like old people." The old woman froze, then slowly returned to her room. She didn't argue. She never argued. Every night she cried quietly into her pillow, but never told her son. She didn't want to break her marriage, even though the marriage was breaking her. Next door lived Mrs. Margaret, another elderly woman, short and cheerful, always wearing colorful sweaters and big flower earrings. She often saw Mrs. Hale sitting alone outside on the porch, shivering in the cold, looking like she had no one in the world. One evening, Mrs. Margaret walked over with soup. "It's cold, dear. Eat before it gets cold." Mrs. Hale's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. I don't remember the last time someone cooked for me." From that day on, Mrs. Margaret visited every evening, bringing warmth and kindness. They would talk, laugh softly, and share memories. It was the only time Mrs. Hale felt alive. One day, Mrs. Margaret noticed something. Mrs. Hale's hands were trembling more than usual. Her eyes seemed dimmer, unfocused. She placed a hand gently on her arm. "Are you okay?" Mrs. Hale hesitated, then whispered, "I forget things. I forget faces. I forget why I stand up, or where I put things. The doctor calls it the early stages of Alzheimer's. I didn't want to tell my son. He has enough to worry about." Mrs. Margaret held her hand tightly. "You shouldn't suffer alone. Let me help." But Mrs. Hale begged her not to say anything. "Please. If Laura finds out, she'll throw me out. I see the way she looks at me, like I'm worthless." Mrs. Margaret promised to stay silent, but inside, her heart was breaking. One evening, Daniel returned home early. He walked in quietly and heard Laura shouting, "Why is this plate on the table? Can't you do anything right? You're useless. Just useless." Daniel froze. He had never heard his wife speak like that. He stepped closer, peeking into the kitchen. And what he saw made his knees shake. Laura was shouting at a trembling old woman who was clutching a plate with shaking hands. Her eyes were confused, scared, lost. Daniel's heart cracked open. "Mom, what's going on?" Mrs. Hale's lips trembled. Laura quickly changed her voice. "Oh, Daniel, she almost broke the plate. I was just helping." But Mrs. Hale suddenly whispered, "I'm sorry. I forget things. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do anymore." Daniel's eyes widened. "Forget things? What do you mean?" Mrs. Hale took a shaky breath. "I didn't want to bother you. The doctor says it's Alzheimer's." Daniel dropped to his knees in front of her. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" Before she could answer, her knees buckled. She collapsed. Daniel caught her just in time, then rushed her to the hospital. At the hospital, Daniel learned the painful truth. His mother had been untreated, stressed, and living in fear. The doctor said stress and neglect made her condition worse. When Daniel returned home, he was shaking with anger and heartbreak. Mrs. Margaret was waiting outside. She gently placed her hand on his arm. "Daniel, your mother has been suffering. She cried every night. She never ate a full meal. She feared your wife." Daniel's face turned pale. "Why didn't she tell me?" Mrs. Margaret wiped her tears. "Because she didn't want to break your marriage. That woman broke her heart, but she still protected you." The neighborhood gathered outside, whispering, shocked. They had always admired Laura. They thought she was kind, but now the darkness was exposed. Daniel packed Laura's bags and told her to leave. She screamed, begged, tried to act innocent, but the truth was too big to hide. As neighbors watched, Daniel said, "You didn't just disrespect my mother. You tortured her. My mother raised me with love, but you don't know what love is." Laura was thrown out of the home she thought she controlled. The neighborhood clapped, not out of joy, but out of justice. Daniel brought his mother home from the hospital. He cooked for her, helped her walk, read books to her, sat beside her every night. And Mrs. Margaret, the good neighbor, became family. They ate together, laughed together, loved each other. One sunset evening, Mrs. Hale placed her shaky hand on Daniel's cheek. "I may forget many things in this life, but I will never forget that you are my son." Daniel broke down in tears, holding her tight. Months later, something beautiful happened. Daniel renovated the house. He painted the porch bright yellow, planted flowers everywhere, built a swing chair for his mother and Mrs. Margaret. Old women from the neighborhood came every evening to talk, laugh, share stories, and drink tea. It became the warmest house on the street, full of love, full of old souls who were never lonely again. People who once ignored elderly neighbors started visiting them, feeding them, talking to them, loving them, because one old woman's suffering opened the eyes of an entire community. And that's the lesson. Never judge someone by their wrinkles. Every old person was once someone's hero, someone's joy, someone's entire world. If you still have an elderly mother or father, hug them tight. Don't wait until regret becomes the only thing left. Subscribe to DLYN Stories, where every story melts the heart and reminds the world that kindness matters. See you in the next story. Bye for now.